Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, fan of various aspects of Japanese music and culture, and of course of model trains. And today I'm going to be talking about a respray job. So what happened was my wife bought me this neat little Kato pocket line patrol tram for Christmas. Came from Japan. It's this cool little thing, and she got it just because she liked it, and I liked it, which is probably why we already had one. So it was just an odd thing. She'd actually bought it for me a couple of years before. So I had this extra. I wasn't sure what to do with it, and it wasn't like it's an expensive model, and shipping stuff back to Japan is kind of a pain. So I thought, well, what if I somehow redecorate it? Anyway, so we spent all of February in Japan. It was partly a research trip for me. I'm currently working on the third in the Hideki Smith novel series. And we were staying in the Kansai area, not in Kyoto and Nara because we've been many times before, but around Ise, Iga, Osaka, Okayama, Wakayama, that kind of area. And one of the things that I love about Japanese trains, of course, is the variety. And I kept seeing all these different liveried trains and coaches, and particularly on the local lines and in the sort of streetcar type trains, a lot of variety, a lot of sort of customized local detail, things that were specific to the area. Like in the Ise area, we traveled on a train that was ninja themed, right? And that only operates on that little line. So I was looking for things that I could do to redesign this duplicate train that I had. And I thought that one of the ideas that occurred to me was going with a kind of anime theme, but that would require me to find decals or stickers that were small enough to go on this train. So I started looking for them, and I couldn't really find anything. Everything that I saw was too big, or it was too thick. It wouldn't work on a locomotive. And then I already had the original idea was it might be something that would go with my little Panzer Girls train. And, and I found things. I was sort of hunting around in the secondhand sections of various stores, particularly in Osaka and Okayama. And I found this little cool train with the cartoon bears on it. So I thought maybe if I'm going to redecorate my own, I want to do something a little different. And then one day by chance, as we were pulling out of a station, I happened to see a cherry blossom themed train. Now, there is a range of these Sakura trains in Japan. They operate on different lines. Some of them are specific for sort of visiting cherry blossom seasonal viewing type stuff. Some may operate all year round. I'm not absolutely sure, but there are a number of different ones. Now, obviously, I couldn't recreate any of these trains exactly because mine has a particular shape, a particular size. So if I was going to do something like this, the idea would be, I wasn't trying to create a prototypical model exactly. What I was doing was creating something that was inspired by them, that was plausible, particularly as a sort of local line custom job kind of deal. And what's fascinating, of course, as I said, we were there in February, and by the end of the month, everything was starting to gear up for the spring. And, when you live in Japan, there's a greater sense of seasonal change because it's kind of built into everyday life. I mean, we have some of this in the West, obviously, though ours tend to be associated with particular quasi or actually religious festivals like Christmas and Easter and Halloween. We get some seasonal stuff in like autumn leaf displays in stores and stuff like that, but it's not as much as in Japan, where the rhythms of the year, of the natural year, sort of inform everything. You see it in the TV, you see it in department stores, these cyclical shifts, which I really like. And you get it in of course the summer festivals, which show up in all kinds of music and culture, of course. But also, you know, when you hit March and April, the cherry blossom stuff is everywhere. We were there, as I say, at the end of February, when we were still, you know, the way that things flower there, it tends to go ume yoshino kanzan, right? So the plum blossoms first, and then a couple of weeks later you start to get the pale, very pale, fragile cherry blossom, which is the yoshino, and then you get that richer, deeper pink, the sort of carnation type flower that you get on the kanzan cherry trees. And so, you know, decoration associated with this stuff is all over the place, and I thought this would be a great thing to do. Plus, because it's so ubiquitous, you can find things that evoke seasonally, that evoke these kind of things. So I was looking particularly in like bookstores, stationery stores, and in the hyakuen, the dollar store type places. And you can find these stickers that are used as masking. People put them on when they make a mistake, when they're handwriting and stuff. They use these little things as sort of masking tape to cover up their mistakes. So I got some of those. And then when we got home, I started the project of actually doing the conversion. The first thing I did, of course, was deconstruct the train itself. It was a simple matter of taking the body off, deconnecting the two cars, and then removing the window glass. I figured that I was going to want to spray some sort of varnish on top of the stickers after they'd been applied. And in order to do that, I wanted to make sure that the window glass was going to be okay with the paint, with the varnish. And I tested it in a tiny corner, and immediately it frosted. So I thought, not going to do that. So I removed the windows and kept the windows out of the entire process and put them in at the very end when everything else was done. So I used a basic spray. I think it's this Krylon, which is well suited to plastic and has a gloss finish. I wanted a pink that wasn't going to be too overpowering for the main body of the car. So I chose one of those, used that, sprayed it, and it went on really well. And then I painted the roof of the cars a deeper pink, which I mixed by hand, and I applied it with a brush, which maybe was a mistake, but I think it's okay. But, you know, if I was doing this again, I might have sprayed this as well, but I didn't. I applied it with a brush, and then when everything was dry, I used the stickers that I'd got to make the thing pop a little. This tiny little row of really small blossom stickers that go underneath the windows, give it a little nice something. And then I added some of the larger blossoms from a different set of stickers to the roof. When everything was done, I then resprayed everything. And, you know, the spray, the gloss spray that went over the top and seals the stickers so they look good. They look like they're more clearly part of the design of the car as it was originally decorated. So I thought that looked good. But on the top, it looked a little shiny. It came out sort of looking plasticky, especially when I got it under the lights on the board. So I recovered that with a satin finish polyurethane, again applied with a brush, and I think it looks okay. So the result, and of course I had to put the windows back in at the end and reassemble everything. And, you know, it's not flawless by any means, nor is it a reproduction of an actual thing, right? As I say, it's supposed to be a kind of imaginative, a what if sort of, you know, a plausible thing that would work on my layout, but it's not a reproduction of a true train. And that's what it looks like. I think it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. Maybe one day I'll refinish the roof, but I actually think it looks okay. And, you know, this was a way of doing something with an engine that I probably wasn't going to use that much because it was a duplicate of one I already had. So that's all I'm going to say about this. As ever, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my books if you're interested in things Japanese. The Hideki Smith series is out in English and Japanese and in a bilingual edition. I'm working on book 3 now, as I said. Check out my Patreon page. My patrons get to see these videos before anybody else, and their support keeps the channel going. Check out my other channel, which is dedicated to writing generally. That tends to be less Japan focused. It's just all things to do with writing and publishing and so on. Check out my little dashery store. And that's it. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.